What is up, everybody? Welcome to Flow State episode 11. I have not done one of these since January of last year. What is this about? Well, this is going to be a quick and dirty look at one of these trades right here, which we're going to look at the last one because it's obviously the best one. And no pausing, no stopping. We're going to get through it pretty quick, a pretty quick video. There is a playlist. Go ahead and check out the Flow State playlist to see more short videos where you get to watch trades be done quickly if you don't want to sit around for an hour. And if you're interested in the full breakdown of all of these trades, this is episode 99 on my coffee. There's over 131 hours of narrations, over 700 trades, and all the trades are time stamped, so you don't have to watch all this footage. You can go straight to the trades and the narration. And if you want to watch the full episodes to understand my thinking on the hard right edge, you can also do that as well. So a little context here, folks. This is the ES on a 10-minute chart. So what we can see here is it's obviously shot up. Right over here is going to be Friday. Sunday's trading right here, Sunday night. And then we're looking at Monday right here, the 4th of March. What happened is it V-flushed in this area right here. Market is kind of chopping near the middle point. And at some point in the trading session, I realized based off of the way Russell and NQ are setting up, ES may hit 50s. It rolled a few ticks under 50s on Friday. And just the way everything was vibing and moving, I decided to get into a trade to go into 50s. Actually, I was trying pretty much quite a bit during the session. And was definitely having problems. You could see this $800 win I held for over 56 minutes. Same attempt to go into 50s and it failed. Got into a little bit of trouble. However, we got right the fuck out of it in this 1 hour hold. So let's go ahead and look at this trade. So this is going to be right before the entry. This is ES 30-second intraday. She's kind of near a critical area, this red line, so she's kind of in the range low, value area low of this profile that is spanning all the way to Friday, because if you're in the same range for multiple days, I think it's important to continue to extend the profile out instead of just cutting it up to RTH. Next to that, we have NQ right here. NQ is actually kind of bottom ticking, V-flushing right here. And she could start to mean revert. She's got a mid pivot right here in this upper range between these two yellow bars. And it mid pivoted about 3 times. So there's a good chance that if it does get through there, NQ could shove all the way through. Finally, we have the best correlation, in my opinion. The non-correlated, yet best correlated fucking market, Russell right here. Now, what you can see above us here is there is a white box up there and a white box down here. Those are both PVAs, and now it's currently on this 30-second chart ranging between the two white boxes. This is what I call thigh gapping. I have a case studies on this shit in my coffee, and I'm betting on Russell re-racking this range and staying in this range. So it's kind of bottom ticking right now, giving me a confirmation that we could potentially start to go up. Also, what you're not seeing is on the 3-second chart, and maybe it'll be pulled up. I'm not sure. ES is in a micro range, and what I'm doing is I'm hitting the bottom of the micro range. We have virtually no volatility, no volume flow. The market is pretty stout as far as like it's very trappy order flow. So I have to be very precise about exactly where I nail, and that's typically going to be the bottom of a micro range. All right, let's go ahead and look at this thing. So clearing out some order flow, we get in at 41.50 with the limit order right here. Playing it at 2 by speed. She's very slow, so I'm going to be fast forwarding through this video here. So we can see Russell at this point. This is a few minutes in the future. We can see Russell at this point coming up. It could start to mid pivot this range. So at this point, I'm like, that's not good. Going fast forward a little bit, Russell is starting to pivot down, so I'm really watching Russell quite a bit here. Well, I'm watching all the screens, but on my coffee, I edit the screens so we can see shit better. NQ coming up into the range right here. Really don't want to see it pivot. Typically, they can take a V-flush back. I'm not thinking they're going to really take it. Really, though, the bottom of this range is kind of a critical area to get through. ES is also coming back into the mid of this profile, the mid of this range. And also, ES all day has been trying to drift up, and it's not really been going with NQ as far as down in certain areas. So I know ES is sort of in its own auction market theory sort of cycle, its own auctions process where it's attempting to go up to hit the 50s, to put in the top tick, to check the other side of the range, because again on the 10-minute it has already V-flushed, which is a sign when it's coming back in the range it could come out the other side. So now we can see that the market has been drifting up on me. We can see NQ is starting to breach that yellow line right here. Russell is starting to drift back lower, and it's coming off that mid pivot, which I don't like. So poker analogy, turn flop river cards. This is a turn card, and Russell's kind of doing what I don't want to see it do. What I do like, though, is ES and NQ are not going down with Russell. However, when Russell upstrokes, ES and NQ push with it. And when Russell goes down, they disconnect with it. And when Russell upstrokes, they connect with it. This is a video I need to do later in the future. It's a pretty sick phenomenon. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So now we go further in the future. We can see that NQ is starting to kind of micro range up in the yellow area. And again, this fucking trade takes forever. So that's good right there. ES starting to drift up a little bit right here. Now, usually when something channels up like this, they can stop run these higher lows. So I am very wary of that potentially being a situation. A few minutes later, we go ahead and go to the Russell here. So you can see Russell is still drifting lower right in there. I had to hit the rewind button just so we can see that. Still sitting in this fucking trade. Now, what you're probably noticing here is there's a large offer right here. Then they pump up a large bid. It looks like market manipulation. However, whoever's been doing this has been doing this for several days, and they're causing artificial volume spikes. However, they're not really pushing the market because what I'm thinking happening here is there's such a lack of volatility and such a lack of liquidity. I think this is a market maker simply providing liquidity here, and that's it. I don't think it's malicious. So going to the 3-second chart, this is called bracketing. You notice how ES is stuck in a 2-tick range, and then it gets stuck in a 3-tick range. And actually, it's coming back to me right now. It touches me to the tick and rotates back off. Now, the thing is, I have a lot of range advantage right here. So I'm going to lean on that range advantage. This is all shit that's in my module course playlist. Go check that out. And by the way, if you do like my DOM, this is Jigsaw Trading. Save $30. Link in the description with your purchase of Jigsaw Trading. Fucking fantastic DOM. Market is blasting back up right here, which is really good, but that can be kind of bad too. So what I like is they're having a hard time. Here's Russell right here. ES still in that range, kind of pushing up in the VPOC of NQ, which is all good. Now, when you guys saw earlier is ES just drifted up really quick. They're having a hard time shoving ES down, but it'll blast up quick. They're having a hard time shifting it down, then it moves up really quick. That's not really an order flow thing, but it kind of is at the same time. Nothing in the numbers is really saying that it's going to do that, but just how quick it moves up versus how quick or how much it struggles to go down, that's typically a sign that the trade is probably going to go in my favor. Not always. You need to be careful. It depends on the context of the situation. And Russell right here kind of drifted lower. And that's, you know, they're putting in a channel low, but ES and NQ are drifting up. And every time Russell rotates up in these micro ranges, it boosts ES up and NQ up a little bit, which is really good. And when Russell kind of goes down a little bit, it doesn't quite drag ES down. Now, there is a point where it starts to do that, which is a bit concerning. Going a little bit more into the future, you can see ES again dropping towards me, but right here is a micro range, which is really fucking solid. So I have range advantage, which is very important. And that range, I believe, is like over an hour long or some shit. It's getting in there. It's baking in some time. So the longer that range goes on, the better it is for my trade, and I'm on the bottom of the range, so I have gravity working for me. Now, Russell's gonna start compressing right here where it puts in this micro range that goes on fucking forever. And at some point, it's like, all right, if they can fucking stop run this micro range up, that's good. But the longer they put in this micro range, the worse it's getting, or the better it's getting. If it goes in my favor, that's really good. But if it fails, that's really bad. So little micro ranges that kind of go on for a while can supercharge the trade, or it can really fail it. It's tough because when it's ranging, market's in agreement, and can blow out either way. Going a little bit into the future, what are these arrows? These arrows are whatever I think is important, and currently I'm tracking the micro range here on Russell on the right, 84.2, 85.1, which is right here. So I'm kind of watching it on the DOM. That's why I like these jigsaw DOMs, is instead of looking at all three of these charts on two different monitors, it consolidates it here, and I can mark out levels, and my eyes have less room to travel. Now, watch, I don't know if Russell does it here, but right about 83.3s is where the stop run should be on Russell on the bottom side if they do come out of this bottom arrow. There is a point, and I don't know if I'm going to show it to you. They pull a shitload of fucking bids and kind of dump it down. They might have already, there, it's right over where I would classify a stop run. There they go. There's a stop run on Russell. Notice how ES is not really drifting lower. That's super good. But there was a point, it's not in the video footage, so I'm not even going to talk about it. You can go see it in the coffee narration. So now we're kind of approaching this gray box, which is the PVA on Russell. Now they could mid-pivot, and here it is. They could mid-pivot this range over here on the left. So I'm kind of seeing, hey, they might do that. There's a good probability they do that. Even though it's thigh gapping, they could push into it and mid-pivot it. All right, going a little bit more in the future, you can see it's kind of on that mid-pivot, and right about here, it's going to actually jam up. Because this is a potentially good bounce point for Russell, and there's that jam up. Now, what's happening is ES and NQ are jamming up just as quick as ES or Russell right here. So that's the connect-disconnect with Russell. They're working on upstrokes with Russell, but not really downstrokes. However, until Russell's done doing its auction cycle and getting into a steady upstroke, ES and NQ won't do that. You can see here's ES, NQ, upstroking with Russell. Yes, Russell's correlated, motherfuckers. I've made a video on it. So this is a midpoint right here on NQ. Can they push through it? This is critical. I think they can, especially coming off of a V flush right here. Now, a little more into the future. It didn't. It rolled the mid pivot. That's not really good. The trade is coming really close to me. So there is a micro range right here from this yellow bar to this yellow bar. They could potentially mid-pivot the middle of that yellow bar. You can see this is where Russell bounced. Now it's coming back in. That's not good. So now this trade is actually turning for the worse at this point. Going a little more into the future, you can see ES did drift back up, way in my favor. NQ starting to push lower, but ES is wanting to stay up. And it's not really going down with NQ. Russell's still on that midpoint chopping. It still could potentially mid-pivot. ES, or NQ's kind of on the mid of this little wicky-wobbly thing that you guys can barely see, so they could start to rotate. And this is sort of a micro range and a bigger range. So the mid-pivot of the bigger range could push out. Everything's fractal. Russell's starting to run up right here, which is really good. So Russell's starting to hit the mid-pivot. Now Russell, since a channel blower right here in this region, there's a lot of stop runs potentially above it. You don't get these momentumous sort of stop runs at times. They kind of bracket walk up. Talk about this in the fucking coffee. So there's a lot of things I just don't have the time to talk about on this YouTube that I talk about in the coffee all the time. So if you want to be on the cutting edge of what it is that I'm talking about, or it doesn't make sense, just the material is there. So you can see the big bids offers. That shit doesn't mean shit. Don't be thinking spoofing. Don't think that you need to understand what they're doing. You don't, because the auction process is still working. And whoever's doing this is artificially spiking volume, which in turn will fuck up indicators that are tracking volume. So your deltas and all these other indicators that use volume, because they're doing that, it's going to skew those up real bad and give a shitty reading, in my opinion. So we're gonna go a little more into the future right here. You can see Russell is really rallying back out, which is good. Now we finally getting the point where Russell could just absolutely just stop run and bang through, especially this little consolidated area I had been tracking, which they failed to blow it out on the top side, but since it kind of went deep right here, there it is. Since they went really deep right here, they could really drive it up and out. Looking at for 50s here, and I go, man, 50s is a long ways away because, I mean, we're just chopping for fucking ages, and then it instantly goes up. Set some limits right there, and then we get filled. We're the fuck out of it for that last trade. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Flow State episode. Go check out the rest of the Flow State episodes or one of these videos that YouTube's recommending you. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.